When I arrived at the intimate family celebration, I faced 150 guests and a banner proclaiming thanks to Sarah's generosity, only for my mother to smirk and say, "We used your bonus for Claire's dream day." I stayed calm, muttered, "Understood," and that night I locked their accounts, reversed 27 transactions, and reclaimed my $250,000 0 cents bonus. By morning, a bombshell about the Napa estate surfaced. The San Francisco skyline glittered like a jagged crown against the dusk, its lights smearing into streaks as I floored the gas pedal of my BMW. My heart pounded louder than the engine, each beat a drumroll of panic. The cryptic text I'd received just minutes ago burned in my mind. "You're too successful for your own good." It came from an unknown number, and before I could process it, my brakes had failed. The pedals sank uselessly to the floor as I careened down the steep incline of Lombard Street, the famous crooked road twisting like a snake ready to strike. I gripped the wheel, my knuckles white, swerving to avoid a tourist snapping photos in the fading light. The tires screeched, and for a split second, I saw my life, 34 years of clawing my way to the top, flash before me. I'm Sarah Mitchell, newly minted Chief Investment Officer at Sterling Capital, one of San Francisco's most cutthroat investment firms. That afternoon, I'd been handed a $250,000 0 cents bonus check, the kind of money that could anchor my dream of a Sausalito beachfront home, a place to call my own after years of renting shoebox apartments. But now, as my car hurtled toward a hairpin turn, that dream felt like a cruel joke. I yanked the emergency brake, the car fishtailing before it shuddered to a stop inches from a concrete barrier. My breath came in ragged gasps, the acrid smell of burnt rubber filling the air. Whoever sent that text knew something I didn't, and they wanted me scared, or worse. I wasn't always this paranoid. Growing up in Napa Valley, in a sprawling but crumbling vineyard estate, I learned early that money was a fleeting guest in the Mitchell household. My parents, Linda and Robert, treated it like morning mist, there one moment, gone the next. By 14, I was the one balancing their checkbook, a spiral notebook filled with red ink and desperate scribbles. Dad would come home from the winery, his boots caked with mud, promising, "The next harvest will turn it all around." Mom, with her designer handbags and wine country socialite dreams, would nod along, her smile brittle as she hid past due bills under stacks of glossy magazines. I'd sit at the kitchen table, a scrawny teenager with a calculator, suggesting cuts to their wine club memberships or Dad's golf trips. They'd laugh, call me their little CFO, and ignore every word. The first time they stole from me was at 16. I'd scraped together $1,500, 0 cents, from babysitting and tutoring, every penny saved for a coding boot camp that could have been my ticket out of Napa's suffocating grip. I kept the cash in a locked box under my bed, hidden behind old yearbooks. One day, I came home to find the box empty, the lock jimmied open. Mom sat me down, her eyes avoiding mine, and said it was for a family investment, a luxury wine tour to impress some investors for Dad's failing winery. "Blood takes care of blood," she said, as if that excused everything. I missed the boot camp, spent my junior year using the school's ancient computers, and swore I'd never let them touch my money again. College was my escape. I clawed my way into Stanford on scholarships and 3 part-time jobs: barista, library aide, freelance bookkeeping. I cut off my parents' access to my accounts, ignored their pleas to manage my scholarship funds, and graduated with a finance degree and only $10,000, 0 cents, in debt. It wasn't easy. While my classmates partied or interned at flashy startups, I was pulling all-nighters, fueled by cheap coffee and a burning need to prove I wasn't my parents' ATM. My entry-level job at Sterling Capital wasn't glamorous, just a cubicle and endless spreadsheets. But it was mine. I poured everything into it, volunteering for the toughest projects, working weekends while my friends jetted off to Coachella or bought fixer-uppers in Oakland. 6 years later, I'd climbed to Chief Investment Officer, a title earned by saving Sterling from a $50 million 0-cents portfolio disaster. My boss, CEO Margaret Hayes, handed me the bonus check in her corner office, her eyes gleaming with rare pride. "You've earned every penny, Sarah," she said. "You're going places." For the first time, I believed her. That $250,000 bonus was more than money, it was freedom. I'd been eyeing a sleek beachfront property in Sausalito, a modernist glass and steel haven with views of the bay. It was the kind of place where I could wake up to the sound of waves, not my phone buzzing with family demands. I could finally plant roots, build something permanent after years of temporary leases and borrowed dreams. But that night, as I sat in my car, still shaking from the near crash, I couldn't shake the feeling that my success had painted a target on my back. The next morning, my phone lit up with texts and calls. My family had heard about the promotion through Napa's Gossip Vine, a network faster than fiber optic internet. Aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen since high school flooded my inbox with congratulations, each message laced with a subtle expectation. "You must be rolling in it now," my cousin Mark texted, adding a winking emoji. My sister Claire, 30 and freshly engaged to Ethan, called for the first time in months. "Mom says you're a big shot now," she laughed, her voice syrupy sweet. Perfect timing, too, since Ethan and I are planning the wedding. She didn't ask about my plans or what the promotion meant to me. Nobody did. Claire and I had never been close. 3 years younger, she was the golden child, charming, carefree, always the center of Mom's attention. While I was balancing budgets, Claire was starring in dance recitals, her costumes funded by my summer job earnings. She'd stayed tethered to our parents, living in a cottage on their estate, while I'd fled to San Francisco's concrete jungle. Her engagement to Ethan, a laid-back winery manager, was the talk of Napa, and I was genuinely happy for her. But her call left a sour taste, a reminder of the family's unspoken rule. My success belonged to them. I'd been working on setting boundaries, thanks to Dr. Rachel Cohen, my therapist. For the past year, she'd helped me say no to my family's endless loan requests. $500, 0 cents for Mom's emergency spa retreat, $2,000, 0 cents for Dad's surefire vineyard investment. Each refusal felt like carving a piece of myself free from their grip. But Mom's passive-aggressive jabs had intensified. "Not everyone can be as blessed as you, Sarah," she'd say during our weekly calls, her voice dripping with resentment. "Some of us value family over bank accounts." The irony was thicker than Napa fog. She only cared about my family values when my wallet was open. When Mom called about a small family dinner to celebrate my promotion, I let myself hope. "Just you, me, Dad, Claire, Ethan, and Aunt Susan," she promised. "Nothing fancy, just our way of saying we're proud of you." I wanted to believe her. Maybe my boundaries were finally sinking in. Maybe they'd seen how hard I'd worked, how much this promotion meant. I bought a bottle of Napa's finest Chardonnay and a delicate silver bracelet for Claire's engagement, splurging on a new dress, a tailored black number that screamed successful professional. As I drove to their estate that Saturday evening, the rolling vineyard stretching under a golden sunset, I let myself imagine a turning point. Maybe this time we'd connect as equals, not as debtor and creditor. The first sign of trouble hit as I turned onto their street. Cars lined both sides of the usually quiet road, a parade of gleaming Teslas and vintage Jaguars, forcing me to park a quarter-mile away. I checked Mom's text. Saturday, 6:30, our place. The date and time were right, but the knot in my stomach tightened. Music pulsed from the backyard, mingling with the hum of dozens of voices. I walked toward the colonial-style estate, my heels clicking on the cobblestone driveway. 7 unfamiliar cars were crammed into a space meant for 3, and the open garage revealed tables piled with gift boxes wrapped in gold and ivory ribbons. Mom greeted me at the door, her cheeks flushed, a wine glass dangling from her manicured hand. "Sarah, you're here," she chirped, pulling me into a perfumed hug. A rarity since I'd set physical boundaries last Christmas. "Everyone's been asking for you." I froze, my voice steady but sharp. "Everyone? I thought this was just family." She laughed, waving off my concern. "Oh, don't be a killjoy. It's a celebration." She linked her arm through mine, practically dragging me toward the backyard. As she flung open the patio doors, my breath caught. The vineyard had been transformed into a scene from a Hollywood gala. White chairs lined up like soldiers faced a floral arch dripping with roses. Tables draped in silk held towering centerpieces, and a drone buzzed overhead, casting a light show across the twilight sky. A string quartet played Vivaldi, and waiters in tuxedos circulated with trays of caviar. A glittering banner stretched between 2 ancient oaks. Thanks to Sarah's generosity. My heart sank like a stone. This wasn't my celebration. It was Claire's engagement party, a 150-guest extravaganza I hadn't been told about. My sister, radiant in a $5,000 0-cents gown, waved from across the lawn, oblivious to my shock. "Sarah, you made it," she called, waddling over, her engagement ring catching the light. "Isn't this incredible? Mom and Dad went all out." I forced a smile, my mind racing. The catering was from La Belle Vie, a Michelin-starred restaurant where appetizers started at $75, 0 cents a plate. The flowers alone, orchids, peonies, lilies, had to cost $10,000, 0 cents. And that drone show, easily another $20,000, 0 cents. As Claire babbled about the decorations, a Silicon Valley tech mogul, a Sterling client, approached. "Sarah, you're a saint for funding this," he said, clapping my shoulder. Big heart for a big shot. My smile tightened. Guests kept coming. Dad's winery partners, Mom's country club friends, distant cousins I barely remembered, all thanking me for my generosity. I pulled Mom aside near the vineyard's edge, my voice low. "What have you been telling people?" She waved a dismissive hand. "Just that you wanted to do something special for Claire." "No big deal." "No big deal," I hissed. "I didn't know about this party." Her smile didn't waver, but her eyes hardened. "Well, you would have if you visited more. We needed your old joint account for the deposits. Vendors wanted payment up front." The world tilted. "What joint account?" She gestured at the gala. "The one from college. You never closed it. We're authorized users." Robert handled the transactions, 27 of them. For all this, she beamed, proud of her theft. "We spent your bonus on family joy. Isn't that better than some sterile condo?" My $250,000, 0 cents bonus. Gone. Siphoned from an account I'd forgotten about, opened for emergencies when I was 18. They'd planned it the day my promotion hit the news. 27 transactions over 3 days. $85,000, 0 cents for catering. $40,000, 0 cents for entertainment. $10,000, 0 cents for flowers. My dream home. My independence. Vaporized into a party I hadn't approved. I stood there, surrounded by Napa's elite, their laughter mocking me as I realized the depth of the betrayal. The night spiraled into chaos. As I circulated, trying to keep my composure, a Sterling board member cornered me. Heard you're pledging $1 million, 0 cents to our charity fund, he said, his tone expectant. Your mom mentioned it. Classy move. My blood ran cold. Mom had been promising my money to everyone. Charities, Claire's wedding, even a yacht for family vacations. Each conversation revealed another layer of their audacity. Aunt Susan whispered about a winery expansion I was supposedly funding. Dad's winery buddy mentioned a generous scholarship donation in my name. Claire, glowing with naive joy, tugged me to the gift table, piled high with crystal and cashmere, oblivious to the fact that my stolen bonus had paid for every ribbon. Then it got worse. A waiter handed me a glass of champagne, and within minutes my vision blurred, my legs unsteady. I stumbled into the vineyard's garden, the world spinning. Someone had spiked my drink. I collapsed behind a rose trellis, my phone slipping from my hand as I fought to stay conscious. Footsteps crunched nearby, and a shadowed figure loomed before retreating as voices approached. I don't know how long I lay there, but Claire's voice eventually pulled me back. "Sarah, are you okay?" she asked, helping me up. I mumbled something incoherent, my tongue heavy. She thought I was drunk, but I knew better. Someone at this party wanted me out of the way. I managed to stagger to my car, desperate to escape. But when I reached the driveway, my tires were slashed, the rubber shredded like confetti. I was trapped. As I stood there, cursing under my breath, a spark from the party's faulty lighting rig ignited a dry patch of vineyard grass. Flames licked up the trellises, and within minutes smoke billowed toward the barn where I'd parked. I ran inside, coughing, searching for my spare key. The fire roared closer, heat searing my skin as beams creaked overhead. I found the key under a tarp, bolted out just as the barn's roof groaned, and drove through the chaos, tires screeching on rims. I didn't go home. I couldn't. Instead, I drove to Muir Woods, the redwoods towering like silent sentinels. Parked in the empty lot, I let the tears come. My hands shook so badly I couldn't hold my phone. The near crash, the spiked drink, the fire. It wasn't just about the $250,000, nothing UO It was the realization that my family saw me as nothing more than a resource, a walking ATM to fund their dreams while sabotaging mine. Memories flooded back. My piggy bank emptied for Dad's gambling debts. My graduation cash borrowed for Claire's car. My college refund check vanishing into household expenses. This wasn't new. It was a pattern etched into my life since childhood, but this time they'd gone too far. As the stars emerged, I thought of Dr. Cohen's words. You can't control their actions, but you can control your boundaries. I opened my laptop, connected to my phone's hotspot, and began untangling my financial web. The joint account, a relic from my Stanford days, showed 27 transactions, each one a knife to my future. I froze it, changed every password, and opened a new account at a rival bank. I emailed my bank's fraud department, attaching screenshots of every charge. Then I called Natalie Brooks, my law school friend turned property lawyer. "I'm on the deed for my parents' Napa estate," I told her, my voice steady despite the adrenaline. "I need leverage." She didn't hesitate. "File a partition suit. It'll scare them into listening without forcing a sale." Yet, by midnight, my phone was exploding. Mom's texts went from confused to accusatory. "What's wrong with the account? Are you in trouble?" Dad's were blunt. "Fix this now. Vendors are calling about bounced checks." Claire, sensing something was wrong, sent a tearful voicemail. "Mom's freaking out. Did you do something to the bank?" I silenced them all. Then, as I was about to shut my laptop, a call came from an unknown number. A distorted voice rasped, "Drop the fraud claim, or you won't be so lucky next time." The line went dead. My pulse spiked. The brake failure, the spiked drink, the slashed tires, the fire. Someone wasn't just stealing my money. They wanted me gone. I drove home in the pre-dawn hours, the San Francisco skyline now a cold, unyielding horizon. My loft in Soma felt like a fortress, but even its steel door couldn't quiet the storm in my head. I poured a coffee, sat at my desk, and began planning. This wasn't just about reclaiming $250,000 0 cents. It was about breaking free from a family that saw my success as their entitlement. The partition suit was my ace, a legal threat to force the sale of their precious estate. The fraud claim was my shield, a chance to claw back what was mine. But that voice on the phone haunted me. Who stood to gain from my fear? Was it Mom, orchestrating a desperate power play? Dad, protecting his winery's reputation? Or someone else, someone with deeper ties to Sterling or Napa's elite? I thought of Claire, her face lit with joy at the gala, unaware of the lies. I thought of Ethan, his uneasy glances hinting at guilt. I thought of the Sterling board member, his charity demand laced with menace. And I thought of Margaret Hayes, my mentor, who'd warned me last week. Big promotions make big enemies, Sarah. Watch your back. As the sun rose, casting long shadows across my desk, I made a vow I'd face them all. My family, their lies, and whoever was pulling the strings. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about survival. The redwoods of Muir Woods loomed like silent judges as I sat in my car, the engine still ticking from the frantic drive. My hands trembled, clutching my phone, its screen a mosaic of missed calls and texts from my family. The anonymous threat from hours ago. "Drop the fraud claim, or you won't be so lucky next time," echoed in my skull. I was Sarah Mitchell, 34, Chief Investment Officer at Sterling Capital. A woman who'd just dodged death twice in one night. First with my sabotaged brakes, then a fire that nearly consumed me in my parents' Napa estate. My $250,000 0 cents bonus, meant for a Sausalito dream home, had been stolen by my own family to fund my sister Claire's extravagant engagement party. A betrayal I'd uncovered amidst spiked drinks, slashed tires, and a gala I hadn't approved. Now, as dawn's first light filtered through the trees, I realized this wasn't just about money. Someone wanted me silenced, and the web of deceit was tightening around me. I took a shaky breath, the cold air sharp in my lungs. My laptop glowed on the passenger seat, open to my bank's broad portal where I'd just filed a claim for the 27 unauthorized transactions that drained my bonus. Catering, $85,000, 0 cents. Entertainment, $40,000, 0 cents. Each line item was a wound, a piece of my future siphoned off by my parents, Linda and Robert, through a joint account I'd foolishly left open since college. I'd frozen the account, changed every password, and opened a new one at a rival bank. But the anonymous call suggested my actions had already stirred a hornet's nest. Who was behind it? My parents, desperate to maintain their Napa facade? Claire's fiancé? Ethan, whose guilty glances at the party hinted at complicity? Or someone at Sterling, where my promotion had ruffled feathers among the old guard? I dialed Natalie Brooks, my law school friend and property lawyer, her voice a lifeline in the chaos. "Sarah, you okay?" she asked, her tone sharp with concern. I recounted the night, the party, the theft, the spiked drink, the fire, the threat. "I'm on the deed for my parents' Napa estate," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "From when I helped them refinance, I need leverage." Natalie didn't miss a beat. "We file a partition suit. It'll threaten to force a sale of the estate, scare them into negotiating without going nuclear. I'll have the papers ready by noon." I thanked her, my resolve hardening. This wasn't revenge, it was survival. Back in my Soma loft, I showered off the smoke and sweat, but the weight of betrayal clung to me. My phone buzzed relentlessly, Mom's texts escalating from, "What's wrong with the account?" to, "This is humiliating, Sarah." Dad's were colder. "Fix this now. Vendors are calling." Claire's voicemail, tearful and confused, twisted the knife. "Mom's freaking out about the bank. Did you do something?" I silenced them all, poured a coffee, and sat at my desk, the San Francisco skyline a gray blur outside my window. I opened my laptop, pulling up the transaction history. The charges began the day my promotion hit the news. A calculated heist, planned before I'd even cashed the check. My parents hadn't just stolen my bonus, they'd orchestrated a public spectacle to lock me into their narrative of generous Sarah. The gala replayed in my mind, the glittering banner, thanks to Sarah's generosity. Guests, Silicon Valley moguls, Sterling clients, thanking me for a party I hadn't funded. Mom's casual admission that she'd used my bonus, her eyes gleaming with entitlement. Dad's smug pride, boasting about the Michelin-starred menu. Claire, radiant but clueless, believing I'd volunteered my money. And Ethan, her fiancé, his uneasy glances betraying doubt about the fund. Then the spiked champagne, leaving me disoriented in the vineyard's garden, a shadowed figure looming before vanishing. The slashed tires, stranding me. The fire, roaring through the barn as I scrambled for my keys. Each moment felt like a deliberate escalation, a trap designed to break me. I called my bank's fraud line, speaking with a rep named Carla. "These were unauthorized withdrawals," I said, emailing her the screenshots. $250,000, 0 cents, taken from a joint account by my parents without my consent. Carla's voice was calm but firm. "Since they're authorized users, it's tricky. But the pattern, 27 charges in 3 days, raises red flags. We'll open an investigation and issue a temporary credit while we review." By 8 a.m., the $250,000, 0 cents, was back in a new secure account, a small victory that felt hollow against the growing threat. At 9:30, my phone rang, an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered, my pulse spiking. "You're digging a hole you can't climb out of." A distorted voice hissed, "Drop the fraud claim, or your next accident won't miss." The call ended before I could respond. My hands shook as I saved the voicemail, forwarding it to Natalie. "This is getting serious," she texted back. "File a police report. I'm sending the partition papers now." I stared at the email attachment. A legal missile aimed at my parents' Napa estate. As a co-owner, I could force a sale, splitting the proceeds. It was a last resort, but the threats, breaks, drink, fire, now this, left me no choice. I signed the papers electronically, my signature a declaration of war. The partition filing triggered a tsunami of family backlash. By noon, my inbox was flooded with 23 texts, 15 voicemails, and 7 emails. Mom's messages veered from panic to venom. The caterers threatening to sue. "How could you humiliate us?" Dad's were authoritarian. "As head of this family, I demand you restore the account." Aunt Susan, Mom's sister, left a voicemail dripping with sanctimony. "Sarah, your mother's distraught. Family comes first, not your fancy job." Even Claire's texts, laced with guilt, stung. "Mom says, we might lose everything because of you. What's happening?" I documented each one, building a record of their pressure campaign, but didn't respond. Their fury only confirmed I'd hit a nerve. Then came the first real blow. My assistant at Sterling, Jenna, forwarded a company-wide email from a board member, Richard Carver, a man I'd clashed with over my aggressive portfolio strategies. "Concerns have been raised about Miss Mitchell's financial stability," it read, citing anonymous reports of my reckless spending on a Napa gala. My jaw clenched. Aunt Susan had been at the party, mingling with Sterling clients. She'd spread rumors, weaponizing my family's lies to jeopardize my career. I called Margaret Hayes, my CEO mentor, who was furious. "This is nonsense, Sarah," she said. "But Carver's got allies on the board. Lay low and gather evidence. I'll handle the politics." Her support steadied me, but the threat to my job, a role I'd bled for, was a gut punch. I needed air. I drove to Ocean Beach, the Pacific's roar drowning out my thoughts. As waves crashed against the shore, I replayed my childhood, searching for clues to this nightmare. At 7, my piggy bank was emptied for Dad's gambling debts, his sure thing at the racetrack. At 18, my graduation cash, $3,000. 0 cents from relatives. Vanished into Claire's new car. Mom calling it a family priority. My college refund check, meant for textbooks, was borrowed for household bills, never repaid. Each theft was cloaked in "blood takes care of blood," a mantra that justified their entitlement. But the gala was different. It wasn't just $250,000. 0 cents. It was a public declaration that my earnings belonged to them, with promises of more. Claire's $200,000, 0 cents. Santorini wedding, a yacht, a winery expansion, and now someone was willing to kill to protect that claim. My phone buzzed, snapping me back. It was Claire, her voice breaking. "Sarah, Mom's falling apart. She says you're reversing the party payments, and Dad's yelling about the winery going under. What's going on?" I gripped the steering wheel, the wind whipping my hair. "Claire, they took my entire bonus, $250,000, 0 cents, without asking for your party. I didn't know about it until I walked in." Silence stretched between us. "No," she whispered. "They said you offered. Mom said it was your idea." "It wasn't," I said, my voice cracking. They accessed an old account and stole everything. Another pause, then a sob. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I believed her. She'd always been Mom's pawn, not the mastermind. But her apology didn't erase the pain. This isn't about you, I said. It's about boundaries they've crossed my whole life. I hung up, my chest tight. Claire's tears were real, but so was the pressure. Mom had weaponized her to guilt me into backing down. I called Dr. Rachel Cohen, scheduling an emergency session for the next day. You're under attack, she said when I briefed her. Not just financially, but emotionally and physically. Stay focused on your boundaries, not their drama. Her words anchored me, but as I drove back to my loft, a black SUV appeared in my rearview mirror, tailing me through the city's fog. I took sharp turns, weaving through Chinatown's narrow streets until it vanished. My heart pounded. The same SUV from the Napa Road? Or paranoia playing tricks? The next morning, I woke to a pounding at my door. It was a courier delivering a cease and desist letter from a Napa law firm representing my parents. They claimed the partition suit was frivolous and demanded I withdraw it or face severe consequences. Attached was a photo of me at the gala, disoriented in the garden, my eyes half closed from the spiked drink. A handwritten note scrawled across it. Careful, Sarah. Secrets don't stay buried. I dropped the letter, my hands shaking. Someone had been watching me that night, capturing my vulnerability. Was it a guest? A hired photographer? Or worse, family? I filed a police report, handing over the voicemail threat, the photo, and my car's mechanic report confirming the brake sabotage. The officer, a gruff man named Torres, raised an eyebrow. This sounds personal. Family disputes over money get ugly fast. We'll look into it, but without hard evidence, it's tough. I nodded, knowing I'd need more than suspicions to unmask the culprit. Back at my desk, I reviewed Natalie's partition filing, now processed. By evening, my parents would receive notice that their estate, their pride and joy, was at risk. It wasn't about selling their home. It was about forcing them to face consequences. The backlash intensified. Aunt Susan called, her voice saccharine. Sarah, your mother's heartbroken. She supported your education, and this is how you repay her? I laughed bitterly. She didn't pay a dime for Stanford. I did. Uncle Greg, Dad's brother, left a voicemail. You're having a breakdown, kid. Get help before you ruin the family. Even Dad's winery partner, a sterling client, texted, Heard you're causing trouble. Don't drag Robert's business into this. The coordinated assault was suffocating, but it only fueled my resolve. At 2 p.m., I met Natalie at a dive bar in the Mission, away from prying eyes. She slid a folder across the table, her face grim. The estate's worth $3,200,000, 0 cents, but it's leveraged to the hilt. Mortgages, loans, winery debts. Your parents are drowning, Sarah. That's why they went for your bonus. I flipped through the documents, my stomach churning. The winery was hemorrhaging money, and Mom's country club lifestyle was funded by maxed out credit cards. They didn't just need my money, I said. They're betting on my future earnings. Natalie nodded. The partition suits your leverage. They can't afford to lose the estate. Use it to force a repayment plan and boundaries. As we talked, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Sterling Capital CIO under scrutiny for financial misconduct. My blood ran cold. The article, published by a shady financial blog, claimed I'd misappropriated company funds for lavish personal expenses, citing the gala as proof. The source? Anonymous. But the details reeked of Aunt Susan's gossip and Richard Carver's vendetta. I called Margaret, who was already on damage control. "This is a hit job," she said. "Carver's pushing for a board review. I'm backing you, but you need to clear your name. Fast." My career, my reputation, everything I'd built was crumbling under my family's lies. That evening, Claire showed up at my loft unannounced, her eyes red from crying. "I need to talk," she said, clutching a coffee cup like a lifeline. I let her in, wary but curious. "Mom's telling everyone you're trying to make them homeless," she said, her voice trembling. "Dad says the winery's done if you don't fix the bank. And the partition thing, Sarah, are you really selling their house?" I sat her down, laying out the truth. The stolen $250,000, 0 cents, the 27 transactions, the promises of her Santorini wedding, a yacht, a winery expansion, all made without my consent. "They've been taking my money since I was a kid," I said, showing her the old joint account statements. This was the last straw. Claire's face crumpled. "I thought you wanted to help. Ethan and we never would have accepted if we knew." She paused, twisting her engagement ring. "Ethan asked Mom if you'd agreed, and she swore you did. He felt weird about it, but I was so excited." Her voice trailed off, guilt etching her features. I believed her, but the damage was done. "This isn't your fault," I said, softer than I felt. "That Mom and Dad need to face consequences or it'll never stop." She nodded, tears spilling. "What do I do?" I sighed. "Just be honest with yourself. And don't let them use you to get to me." As she left, I noticed a car idling across the street, a black SUV, its windows tinted. My pulse spiked. I snapped a photo of the license plate, texting it to Natalie. "Check this," I wrote. "Same SUV from Napa?" Her reply was instant. "On it. Stay safe." I locked my door, double-checking the security system, but sleep eluded me. The photo from the cease and desist letter haunted me. Someone at that gala had targeted me, and the SUV suggested they were. The next day, I met Dr. Cohen for our emergency session, her office a sanctuary of soft light and sage-scented candles. I poured out everything, the threats, the rumors, the board scrutiny. "You're facing a multi-front war," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Your family's entitlement is the root, but these threats suggest someone sees your success as a threat. Stay grounded in your truth, not their manipulations." We strategized for my meeting with my parents, set for 3 p.m. at Cliffside Cafe, a coastal spot with open sightlines and easy exits. "Don't justify or defend," she advised. "State your terms and hold firm." I arrived at the cafe early, choosing a table overlooking the Pacific's churning waves. My parents walked in at 3 sharp, their faces a study in contrast. Mom's eyes puffy from tears, Dad's jaw set like granite. "Sarah, how could you do this to us?" Mom began, her voice cracking. "Vendors are suing, the winery's collapsing, and now you're trying to take our home?" I gestured to the chairs. "Sit down. Let's talk calmly." They sat, Dad launching into a tirade. "Your actions are inexcusable. You've embarrassed us, frozen our accounts, and this partition nonsense, it's betrayal." I placed a folder on the table, my voice steady. "This is every unauthorized transaction from my account for Claire's party. 27 charges, $250,000, 0 cents, taken without my consent." Mom scoffed. We had access, it wasn't unauthorized. Access for college emergencies, I countered, not permission to steal my bonus. I opened the folder, revealing the transaction log. The bank's investigating. They've restored the funds. What would you call this, if not theft? Dad's face reddened. We're your parents, not criminals. Mom shifted to tears. We wanted to give Claire her dream day. For family, Sarah, your niece's future. I cut her off. This isn't about Claire. It's about you taking my money, promising more, her $200,000, 0 cents wedding, a yacht, winery loans, without asking, how many commitments did you make with my future? They exchanged a glance, confirming my fears. The gala was just the start. Now, the estate, I continued, sliding the partition notice across. As co-owner, I've filed to force a sale if we can't agree. Mom gasped, clutching Dad's arm. You'd make us homeless? No, I said. I'd use my legal rights to end this exploitation. The filing stops if we reach terms today. Dad leaned forward, his voice low. What terms? I listed them. Full acknowledgement of the theft. A 5-year, $250,000, 0 cents repayment plan, a legal boundary agreement, and family therapy. Repayment? Mom sputtered. We're on fixed incomes. You found the money to steal, I said. You'll find a way to repay. The argument raged for 2 hours, cycling through denial, anger, and bargaining. Mom tried guilt. I hope you'll understand family when you have kids. Dad threatened. You're no daughter of mine if you push this. But I held firm, Dr. Cohen's words echoing, don't justify, state your truth. Finally, they signed. A repayment plan, therapy commitment, and boundary agreement. I'd withdraw the partition suit once the first payment cleared. As they stood to leave, Mom's parting shot landed like a slap. I hope you're happy, alone in your empty life. I met her gaze. I'm not alone. I'm free. Drove home, the Pacific's horizon a ribbon of gold. The agreement was a victory, but the war wasn't over. The black SUV, the gala photo, the Sterling rumors. Someone was still out there, pulling strings. I checked my phone. A text from Natalie with the SUV's plate results. Registered to a shell company linked to your dad's winery partner, she wrote, digging deeper. My breath caught. Was Dad's partner a Sterling client behind the threats, or was it a decoy, masking a bigger player? In my loft, I opened a bottle of wine, staring at the city's lights. Claire's apology, the signed agreement, the reclaimed $250,000, 0 cents. They were steps toward freedom, but the brake sabotage, the spiked drink, the fire, the threats, they screamed of a deeper conspiracy. I thought of Margaret's warning, big promotions make big enemies. Was Richard Carver orchestrating the board's attack? Did Mom and Dad know more than they let on? Or was Claire, despite her tears, playing a longer game? As I sipped my wine, a new email pinged. It was from an anonymous sender with a single attachment, a grainy video from the gala showing me stumbling in the garden, a figure in a dark jacket slipping something into my glass. The message read, "You can't outrun the truth, Sarah." My heart raced. But this time, it wasn't fear. It was defiance. I saved the video, forwarded it to Natalie and Officer Torres, and made a vow. Behind this, I'd unmask whoever was behind this, no matter the cost. My family had taken enough. Now, I was taking back my life. The next morning, I walked into Sterling, my head high. Margaret met me in her office, her face grim but resolute. The board's review is a witch hunt, she said. But I've got your back. Show them who you are. I nodded, clutching my fraud evidence and the gala video. The battle for my career, my safety, and my freedom was just beginning. But for the first time, I felt ready. I wasn't just Sarah Mitchell, the family ATM. I was Sarah Mitchell, survivor, fighter, and, finally, my own hero. Months later, the dust began to settle. The fraud investigation confirmed the theft, cementing the repayment plan. Family therapy, though rocky, cracked open Mom's defenses. She admitted to misjudging my boundaries, a fragile step forward. Dad, grudgingly, acknowledged his overreach, his pride bruised but bending. Claire gave birth to Lily, a bright-eyed girl whose tiny grip on my finger melted my armor. Her nursery, furnished with love, not my money, became a symbol of hope. I bought a Sausalito loft, its rooftop garden a haven where I planted rosemary and watched the bay shimmer. The SUV's owner was traced to Dad's partner, who'd been skimming winery funds. A side plot, not the mastermind. The Gallup video led to a hired photographer, paid by an unknown source still at large. Richard Carver's board review fizzled under Margaret's counterattack, but he resigned, his murky. The threats stopped, but I kept my guard up, knowing the truth was still out there. One evening, Mom called, her voice tentative. "We're thinking of downsizing," she said. "The estate's too much. Could you help us research options? Not money, just your brain." I smiled, the first real one in years. "I'd like that," I said. As I hung up, I stepped onto my rooftop, the stars blazing above. I'd lost my bonus, my trust, my illusions, but I'd gained something greater, myself. And that, I knew, was worth every fight.